Are you looking to get started racing on Zwift? Or maybe you're already racing and are looking to step it up and play the game of Zwift a bit more effectively. Because let's remember, it is a game at its core. So, no matter what you're looking for out of Zwift and racing, we're kicking off Zwiftips by diving into a multi-part mini-series. From picking your event, getting prepared, and then gunning for the win. Race prep can make or break your race. So, in this episode, we'll be covering how to prepare for your race, both mentally and physically. Treat it like a test, do your homework, and chances are you'll be rewarded. Learn things from where the hills are to who's showing up. Let's jump in and see how you do. Let's dive into the first topic. If you're looking to see what you're going to be up against in a race, there's no better place than Zwift Hub and Velo Viewer. Zwift Hub is a great tool regardless, as it's a place where you can track your achievements on Zwift, like route completions and badges, something you can't do inside of Zwift itself. It is also home to some pretty detailed course profiles for every route on Zwift. There's a breakdown for how many sprint points and King or Queen of the Mountain points you'll encounter, and we'll even link to a Strava segment where you can get into some serious nitty-gritty details about the course. If you're a real data-driven cyclist, then Velo Viewer might be your go-to. The amount of detail packed into a Velo Viewer segment breakdown can be overwhelming, but you'll not be left wanting for details. Everything from a 3D elevation map, gradient breakdown, and segment stats. If you can think of something you want broken down, chances are it exists here. It's a great place to get a virtual representation of what you'll be up against once the race starts. Knowing is definitely more than half the battle in a Zwift race. The one thing to note here, make sure you look at how hard or long the lead-in is. Some courses have a massive lead-in or an extremely hilly start that might not show up on the course itself. For example, Casse-Pâté in France. You have to climb Petit KOM before you can even start. Let's go ahead and dive into the second topic. In IRL racing, you get to know your competitors through consistently racing them week in and week out. With local racing, you're limited to going against only the people within an area of who's willing to drive to that race. In Zwift, it's definitely a little bit more tough to know who you're racing, as it's more of an international affair, but there is a way to do your research. Our old faithful Zwift Power is the go-to for getting information on your competitors. If you go to the event page, you can actually see everyone who is registered so far. This will break down every rider's weight, age, height, and their 20-minute and 15-second power. This will help give you an idea of who you're up against and what they're strong in, or in some cases, where they're not weak. You'll also be able to see their rank, which is Zwift Power's way of classifying riders by their most recent few races. The lower a rider's rank, the more likely they are to place better, a little bit like golf. You can also dive into a rider's profile here to get a bit more insight into their past event results. Let's move along to topic 3, reading a race prep walkthrough. You wouldn't go into the big test without doing your research, right? Okay, well, maybe some of you would, but let's pretend you wouldn't. Zwift Insider has a bunch of courses laid out in what they call a race recon or walkthrough. They break down all of the major sections and key pieces of the course, from sprints, climbs, kickers, everything in between. Sometimes climbs or segments of a race are complex enough that not just watching or looking at the course will do. It helps having someone either ride or race the course, so that they can give an almost play-by-play from where you should be paying attention to maybe where you can take in food or drink safely without fear of something sneaking up on you. Are you seeing the trend yet? Practice and research makes the biggest difference here. Let's move right along to the fourth item on the list. Pre-ride or watch a ride through the course. You're seeing a trend here, right? So the last key pre-race step, at least before the day of, or at least a bit before the race, is to ride the course if you have the time. Nothing is the same as getting to ride the course yourself. You can read race recons and look at elevation maps and everything like that all you want, but feeling the gradients in course yourself is second to none. What someone might consider easy, you might feel is harder, or maybe it's the other way around. Getting to do even one lap can make the difference between suffering on a section of the course and being able to position yourself in the pack and save energy for the race itself. If you have time before the race, putting in some efforts on the different portions of the course where you think they might break or things might happen will help give you a feel for what you'll be encountering mid-race. Now, of course, every race doesn't pan out exactly as planned, but you can never be too careful, and every little bit helps. Now, if the race is too soon or you don't have the time, you can always try to find a ride-through of the course either on YouTube or Twitch. Just getting your eyes on the actual course will help in leaps and bounds for the actual event. And it's time for the fifth and final piece. And that is something that everyone will need to find their own touch for, and that's a warm-up. You rarely want to go into a race with legs that just aren't warmed up, because you can pretty much bet that there will be a sprint out of the gate and you'll be left standing still. Except for those few of you who just really aren't human. Everyone tends to develop their own warm-up routines, but the keys are to ride for the time where you will feel like you can appropriately warm up your legs. Do a couple of moderate efforts to shake out the cobwebs, and then warm down right up to the beginning of your event. You can have your warm down lead right into the starting pens where you'll be able to sit on your trainer with no road resistance. Many people will do warm up for somewhere around 30 minutes with about 10 minutes of warm up and warm down, and then some efforts in between, but the key is to experiment to find what works best for you. The key here is to not burn any matches that you'll need in the race, but to make sure your legs are ready to fire when the countdown hits 0. And that's it. You're ready to go to the next video in the series. There's so many facets to Zwift racing, and this is just a step in the process. Make sure to check out the next video, and hopefully I'll be able to keep shedding light on new parts of Zwift that you didn't know about, or maybe building on pieces that you already were familiar with. But for now, my name's Generally Lost, and if you want to ask any questions live or watch me race with my own advice, which we all know will go perfectly flawless, make sure to check me out on Twitter or Twitch at Generally Lost. I stream 3 days a week, Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. Mountain and Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Mountain Time.